Why is this broke fool with a low education here? Upon exiting a high-end restaurant with my elementary school-aged son, we bumped into a classmate from my school days who used to dislike me. My son, realizing she worked at a bank, said, "Hey, Dad, that lady was at the bank we went to last time. I remember her clearly. Let's close our $50 million account." What? My name is Michael. I'm currently 33 years old, with a son as my only family member, as my wife has already passed away. My son, who once toddled around, has grown up quickly and is now 12 years old. I may be called a doting parent for saying this, but despite not having a mother and the loneliness that must have ensued, he has grown into a bright and straightforward child. I am incredibly proud of my son. I met my late wife at a small factory where I started working after graduating from middle school. She was working as an office clerk there, also a middle school graduate and the same age as me. We were the only ones of our age there, surrounded by craftsmen who were mostly reticent. It was natural for us to become close friends quickly in such an environment. In January, a few years later, as soon as we both turned 18, we went to submit our marriage registration, officially becoming husband and wife. A year later, our son Alex was born. Despite working from an early age, our salaries weren't substantial due to our limited educational background. We didn't have much savings at that time, but I believe it was the happiest time for us as a family. A week before Alex's second birthday. Since Alex's birthday is coming up soon, I need to really put some effort into decorating the room. I have various preparations to make, so I'm going to do some shopping. Please look after Alex while I'm gone. She left in high spirits. An hour later, my phone rang, and thinking it was my wife, I checked the screen only to see an unknown number. Wondering if it might be a wrong number, I answered anyway, only to be informed that my wife had been killed by a drunk driver. Following that were days filled with visits to the police, funeral arrangements, and taking over the child care that my wife had mostly handled. To be honest, I was too busy to even cry, and I hardly remember anything from that time. A few days after saying goodbye to my wife, Alex started looking for her. "Mommy, Mommy." He was too young to understand that she had passed away. Alex thoroughly searched the house, opening doors and the bathroom door multiple times, but of course, my wife was nowhere to be found. This continued for a while, and though it was a tough and sad time, I made sure to give Alex all the love from both parents. This strengthened our bond immensely. I had chosen not to pursue high school due to certain circumstances and instead had left home to work at a factory with a boarding house. Any place I could sleep was good enough for me. The factory I ended up working for was surprisingly ethical and didn't make me work long hours because I was a minor. Still yearning to learn, I often visited a library which was a 5-minute walk from the boarding house. Meeting Joseph, who worked as a librarian there, was one of my lucky breaks. Now retired, Joseph was a former high school teacher. Seeing me reading old high school textbooks, he initially gave me specific advice on which books were easy to understand and even taught me how to study. I first met Joseph around late April. Impressed by my consistent studying at the dorm and continuous visits to the library, he started teaching me more advanced and diverse subjects. By the time I was 18, he suggested I take the GED. "Michael, considering your learning ability and motivation, it would be a waste not to. You should definitely take the GED." Growing up, I always struggled with money, which was a big complex for me. However, that also sparked my interest in money circulation and economic systems. Joseph was a polymath with various interests, so he didn't just teach me academic subjects but also shared valuable knowledge about the world situation and economics. Last time I suggested the GED, but if you have the desire to study in a specialized field, you should definitely go to college. He said this, giving me another push forward. By that time, I had been dating my wife for a few years and was considering leaving the dorm to start a family. The idea of college suggested by Joseph was nothing but a distant dream at that point, but life was long, and I thought maybe someday, if we had more financial stability. After Alex was born, I increased my overtime hours to provide for my family. After my wife passed away, I was swamped with work, household chores, and childcare, leaving almost no time for studying. I've lost count of how many times I've wished there were more than 24 hours in a day, or that there was another me. One morning, as I was about to drop Alex off at daycare and head to work, my legs wouldn't move as I intended, and before I knew it, I found myself sitting on a bench in front of a library. What am I doing? I need to get to work. Just then, someone called out to me from behind. "Michael, what are you doing here so early in the morning?" Turning around, I saw Joseph standing there with a kind face. Joseph knows everything and always teaches me new things. He gives me precise advice when I have problems, makes me laugh sometimes, and is a mentor in my life. Perhaps it was Joseph's calming presence that loosened the tension I had been holding, as I found myself shedding tears while recounting my life up until now. Joseph was calm. He listened carefully to each part of my story, nodding along. I talked about living with parents who were both addicted to alcohol and never ceased to be violent. How I was always injured in some way and constantly hungry. My indifferent parents never did laundry. We were cut off from gas, so we couldn't bathe, and I was always dirty, which made me the target of ridicule from my classmates. Even the teachers laughed at me and never treated me as a student. By the time I entered middle school, I was forced to work part-time jobs by lying about my age, and the money I worked hard to earn was all taken by my parents. On the night of my graduation, after my parents had passed out drunk, I fled with the bags I had secretly prepared and hidden. I had been living this life for over 10 years, but I was sick of it, so I ran away from home, met someone important, got married, had a lovely child, and finally I thought I had a normal life and happiness. Why don't I have the things others take for granted? Why is it always me? Listening silently to my lament, Joseph hugged me tightly. "Don't say that. You've done well so far. You're a father who can stand tall in front of your son. I respect you as a person, Michael." Hearing those words made me cry even harder. After a while, when I had calmed down, Joseph apologized to me. "As a former teacher, that story is hard to hear. I'm sorry on behalf of those teachers who couldn't guide your future. I really am sorry. And there's something I've been hesitant to say, thinking it might be overstepping, but would you listen?" Having cried out my past sorrows, I responded with determination to Joseph's suggestion, recognizing him as a reliable adult. "I'll do it." "That's good to hear." Seeing my reaction, Joseph smiled with relief. Today, Alex and I had come to our favorite restaurant. Feeling full and happy, I suddenly remembered the past. So much has happened, but it's already been 10 years. Alex has grown so much. Lost in these deep thoughts, Alex, who had come out of the restaurant with me, looked up at me with his innocent childlike face. "What's wrong, Dad?" "Well, I was just thinking how much you've grown. You even had the horseradish with your roast beef today. It took me until I was an adult to start eating it. When I was a kid, I couldn't easily have beef, so I didn't have a chance. I was 15 when I got my first paycheck and bought a pack of supermarket roast beef. I got carried away and put too much radish on it, and it shocked me right to the back of my head. I couldn't eat horseradish for a while after that, but I overcame it eventually." As I shared my memory with a teasing tone, my son, eager to seem grown up, said, I see, but I'm an adult now too. I won't say no to horseradish anymore. It makes beef so much tastier. Today's roast was the best." His cheeky words made me burst out laughing. There are many precocious kids these days, but I try to make sure Alex has a childhood as much as possible. However, With the increasing situations where he's becoming more discerning, I can't help but give her a smile and say, "So it was significantly tastier, huh? That's great. But remember, moderation with spicy stuff while you're still in your teens." As we began walking home, a shrill voice called out from behind. What, is there a dirty fool here? We came to enjoy some delicious food, and this just ruins the mood." Surprised, I turned to see a woman looking at us with a frown. Her face and voice seemed vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her. As I furrowed my brows, the woman pointed at me and loudly explained to her colleagues. "That man was a dropout from my middle school, too poor to even go to high school, and not the brightest either. He never bathed, so he reeked, and his clothes were always ragged and dirty, repelling everyone. What's he doing in front of such a fancy restaurant? Did he go into debt to eat here?" As I listened to her, I began to remember. Her name was Emily, a classmate from elementary to middle school. The first half of my school days was miserable due to my broken family environment, but what made it even worse was the relentless exclusion by classmates for being different. Emily, in particular, was the leader among the girls, a prodigy with elite parents working at a city bank, excellent looks and grades, but also the one who disliked me the most. I never wanted to remember her, but here I am, forced to recall those memories, which is upsetting. While elementary students mostly just listen to their parents, middle schoolers start to form their own opinions, which can be troublesome. Whenever something went missing, she would say, "My eraser is gone. There's a thief among the poor," or if the floor was dirty, "Hey, it's dirty here. Some filthy person is making the class dirty," directly blaming me, with classmates joining in the teasing, using the power of the group to ostracize me. Of course, I've decided never to engage in criminal activities. Except for the part-time jobs I was forced to do by lying about my age during middle school, I've lived my life straight without distraction. The flood of unpleasant memories threatened to drag me back into my gloomy school days, but the warmth of the hand I was holding brought me back to reality. That's right, I have Alex. I'm not alone anymore. I need to pull myself together. "Hey Dad, that old lady has been looking over here and talking. Is she calling you a dropout?" The woman, not missing Alex's words, shifted her target to my son. "What? Did you just call me old lady? I'm still a miss, you know. And to think, genetics are so cruel and terrifying. If the parent is a dropout fool, the child turns out to be a fool too. I can tell. You look utterly empty-headed, and such a plain face too. Poor thing, looking just like your dad. You've really lost the parent lottery, haven't you?" She exchanged looks and laughed mockingly with the women around her. I don't care what they say about me. I find it bothersome to engage with them, so let them mock me all they want. But when they insulted my precious child, not just me, I couldn't ignore it any longer. "I'm sorry, Alex, for making you worry, and it's rude to call someone you don't know an old lady. That woman has always been a bit strange. Listening to her, it's like she's stuck in middle school. Haven't I always told you what's inside matters most? She's just disappointing on the inside." After stating this clearly to my son, the woman immediately became furious and started yelling in a hysterical voice. "What did you say? That's outrageous. Poor, ugly, filthy, dropout fool daring to act all high and mighty." Hearing her voice, Alex was taken aback and made a well face before he seemed to realize something, looking up at me with a serious suggestion. "Oh, wait, hey, Dad, that old. Oh, I misspoke. That woman was at the bank we went to the other day. I remember her because of the mole on her cheek, the color of her nails, and her voice, and this strong perfume smell. It's scary to think there's a crazy person at the bank. What if they misuse our money, Dad? We just deposited it, but let's move our $50 million to another bank." "What, $50 million? After Emily's loud exclamation, a man hurried over to them. "Sorry, everyone. The branch manager held me up. I'm late. Nathan can talk forever, you know. Let's go inside." It's time for our reservation. Facing each other, Emily's group and my son and I. The man, noticing the awkward atmosphere, quickly glanced between both parties and then smiled happily at Alex. "Ah, I know you, you're Alex. I watch how Alex increases his money every time. I'm grateful to you. It's easy for kids to understand. So my son watches it with me. Since he started watching your videos, he's been seriously saving money instead of wasting it. Last month, he saved over $500 and bought me and my wife bouquets. I was so touched, I cried secretly. Thanks to you, Alex." Grateful words from the man made Alex smile too. "Really? You watch my videos? Thanks. I'm uploading a new one about stocks at 7:30 tonight, so be sure to watch it." Alex confidently promoted his upcoming video, and I watched their interaction with a smile. I never thought we'd meet a viewer on the street. Glad to hear such a lovely story, but then Emily interrupted. "What's this about? Money increasing in stocks, what's all this?" The man began to explain with a surprised look. "Wait, you don't know, he's really popular right now. Alex here is a prodigious child who, even before starting elementary school, had nearly finished reading all the renowned economics books. I thought if a child could understand it, then so could I. So I bought and tried reading some of the economics books Alex recommended, but they were completely beyond me, which just made me reconfirmed Alex's brilliance. And now, he's making videos of where his dad enacts various economic activities using his own allowance." Emily nodded awkwardly to the man's explanation. "Ah, I see. Video uploading. Sorry, I'm not very familiar with that stuff." In one of the videos, Alex plays the role of a teacher, and his dad acts as a student who knows nothing. But the twist is, his dad is actually a current economics faculty lecturer, which has also become a talking point. As the man added this detail, Emily was taken aback once again. "What? A current economics professor?" Trying to hold back my laughter at her reaction, I stood tall. "Him? No way, that's ridiculous. It must be a lie. You're just making this up for video views, aren't you? I know for a fact that he's just a dropout fool." As Emily pointed and ranted at me, the man gently lowered her finger and then turned to me for confirmation. "A dropout? No, I heard he graduated from the university where he's now lecturing. I forgot which university it was. Your accusation must be some mistake, right?" Filled with years of pent-up emotion, I stood tall with pride. "That's right. Well known indeed. I graduated from H University's economics department and went on to their graduate school." Alex, standing next to me, looked proud as well. "Hey, I plan to go to the same place someday. It's my dream to study at the same university as my dad." His bold declaration, unasked for, was incredibly endearing. "That's ridiculous. It's all lies, all of it. I won't believe it. How embarrassing, lying like that at your age. So arrogant despite being poor." Emily trembled with rage, her face turning pale, while the man sighed. "What are you talking about? You might not know, but Alex's channel is booming, with impressive numbers. He was in the top 10 of this year's channel subscriber rankings, wasn't he? He has sponsors, published books, and his account balances. Wait." The man paused, then glared at Emily. "Hey, by any chance, have you been bothering these two all this time?" Not just Emily, but the other women also averted their gazes uncomfortably. "I'm terribly sorry for our behavior. This man must be the type who's competent at his job." He immediately faced us with an open posture and apologized to us. Although I thought it was a bit immature, I felt relieved to show Emily I was different from my past self, so I responded firmly. "There's no need to apologize anymore, please don't. Look, people around us are watching. We have another appointment to attend to, so we'll be taking our leave now." Saying that, I quickly walked away with Alex. Of course, the man followed us, insisting on arranging a future appointment and wouldn't back down until he did. He's really dedicated to his job, even outside of working hours. A few days later, at 1 p.m., Nathan, the branch manager of the bank, and Kevin, the man from that day, came to our home with gifts in hand. Our home, though, is not really ours since we're living in the house of a man named Thomas. When we first started living at Thomas's house, I was worried whether Alex would get attached to him or open his heart, but those worries were unfounded. They quickly developed a bond like that of a grandfather and grandson, and since it was comfortable for the three of us men to live together without any reservations, I offered to stay as a lodger, and Thomas happily agreed. Sure, go ahead, there are plenty of rooms, I'm single and elderly, so you never know when I might fall or collapse at home. It's reassuring to have someone around, so I'm all for it. So, Nathan, who came to our home with Kevin, turned out to be Emily's father. With a slightly balding head, he deeply apologized. "Michael, I sincerely apologize as the person responsible for the extremely rude behavior of our employee the other day, and for the inexcusable act of speaking about your background in public." Kevin next to him did the same. As I stood there stunned, Nathan, thinking his apology was insufficient, began to apologize even more deeply, and Kevin followed suit. I hurriedly passed them to the living room and made them sit on the sofa. "Hey, what are you two doing? Please stop with the deep apologies." Then Nathan started speaking. Naturally, it was about the deposit. "So, about your deposit." "Oh, that's what this is about. As long as there's no major scandal involving the bank itself, I have no intention of doing anything, so please don't worry." Relieved by my words, both of them visibly relaxed. As for Emily, she's currently suspended from work and will be assigned to an internal department unrelated to customer information in the future. That's probably the right decision for the bank's future. After the matter was settled, we had a pleasant chat for a while, but then Nathan, perhaps as a way to take responsibility for this incident, or because I was Emily's classmate, started talking about being Emily's father. Emily was our long-awaited first daughter and the youngest child. It may not be appropriate to say this here, but she was so dear to us. We spoiled her much more than our three sons. We gave her everything she wanted, appeased her when she was upset, and more. Though she was academically excellent, and I believe not bad-looking, her job hunting didn't go well. The recruiters must have seen through her personality. Every time she received a rejection notice, she would drink and become violent. It was painful to watch, so, unable to bear it, I arranged for her to join the bank, but that was not good for her. Job hunting was a good opportunity. It was a chance to think about why she was rejected. Yet, I lent a hand too early, just like always. With that, Nathan bit his lip. I should have helped my child to stand on her own, to think for herself, like Professor Thompson did for you. Hearing Nathan continue, I asked in surprise. "Huh? Did you just mention Professor Thompson? Why would Nathan bring up Joseph here?" Nathan smiled and shared an unexpected connection I didn't know about. "Yes, a few years ago, I happened to meet Professor Thompson at the station, and he told me about you. Professor Thompson was my teacher during my student days. Joseph had supported me when I was devastated by the loss of my wife. That day, Joseph made a suggestion to me. 'Joseph, I don't want to go to work. There are plenty of others to replace me, and I want to quit. But if I do, my child and I won't be able to survive. We have no savings.' To my worries, Joseph suggested a job. 'I know a retired university professor named Thomas. How about looking after him? His house is big, and you might be able to live there. He doesn't have any relatives nearby, and though I suggested he consider a nursing home, he refused. When I visited him last time, he sighed and mentioned how he wished he had someone to help around the house.' Joseph added more information. 'He loves teaching since he was a professor, so he might help with studies when he's free. He's a bit hard of hearing, so he won't mind if Alex plays around, and it's a quiet environment. which could be good for a child's education. Feeling how much he cared, I ended up crying again. This Sunday of the week I talked with Joseph. Since Joseph was free that day, Alex and I, along with Joseph, went to visit Thomas's house. Thomas was around 80 years old, but didn't seem his age and was very energetic. He had lived a life dedicated to research and had never married. I was worried he might be difficult to get along with, but he was not shy and immediately took a liking to Alex, calling him a quick-thinking genius. Everything went smoothly, and Alex and I ended up living with Thomas. The next day, I contacted the factory and officially quit my job. The factory manager, Matthew, gave me a kind send-off, making me tear up a bit. I see. I was hoping that this rest period would give you some time to reflect positively, but you're still young, and there must be many things you want to do. Keep up the good work. I'm rooting for you. If you ever run into trouble or have something on your mind, don't hesitate to get in touch. Yes. Thank you so much for everything up to now. In a nurturing environment, I devoted myself to household chores, studying, and parenting. After passing the GED, I secretly applied to and was accepted into H University, which I had long admired. I attended school on a scholarship, joined a research lab, assisted the professor, and successfully completed my thesis. With Thomas's support, I never once stumbled during my university years. By the time I submitted my thesis, Thomas had taken an interest in Alex's genius and had started making videos for fun. When I told him I was advancing to graduate school and had been offered a part-time lecturer position, Alex's eyes sparkled with excitement. Wow, you're going to be a lecturer. I'd love to attend one of your classes. It had been a while since I'd taught, so I practiced with Alex as my student, but he gave me a harsh evaluation. Dad, if you're going to teach like that, it's not going to work. Let me explain it more clearly. Just watch. When Alex offered to show me how it's done, I became the student in his class. We recorded the session, not for broadcasting but as a keepsake. However, we didn't expect the first lesson to be so good, and when Thomas said it would be a waste not to share this, we decided to post it online, where it quickly surpassed 1 million views. Amused by the smooth flow and popularity of the video, Thomas decided to turn it into a series. Subsequently, Alex's videos were featured on variety shows and evening news programs. This led to the publication of a book that explains economics in a way children can understand, and Alex became a sought-after talent, dubbed a child investor. It's hard to believe that we once lived a modest life while I worked at the factory. I truly feel that we've been blessed and supported by so many people. When I shared our story with Nathan and the others, Nathan began to speak quietly. Actually, I knew about the environment you were living in when you were in the neighborhood. I knew the situation you were placed in. I tensed up at his words. It's shameful as an adult, and there's nothing that can be done about it, but outsiders can't interfere in family matters. I had thought if you ever sought help and no one else was there, I would step in, but you had already left. Your will to survive was stronger than my desire to help. Still, it's rare for a child thrown into society to come out unscathed. I regret that I didn't act sooner instead of waiting. I was speechless at his unexpected words. Back then, without telling my daughter the details, I asked her to be mindful of you, but she must not have liked that. Maybe she wondered why her parents cared about someone else instead of her. I think it was around her high school years when I heard from others about what she had done to you and immediately scolded her. She apologized meekly at the time, but the fact that she hasn't changed over the years might be a problem with her character. I didn't know what to say to Nathan, who looked dejected. The room was enveloped in a gloomy atmosphere. Feeling awkward, I decided to change the subject by asking something I was curious about. By the way, how are my parents doing? Your parents moved away shortly after you left that house. The house was demolished, and now the site is vacant, he informed me. They probably feared that I, having fled, might expose them. For whatever reason, they haven't contacted Alex or me, even though we're now visible in public. I don't have a good opinion of my parents and have no intention of seeking them out. I'll think about it if the time comes. Though they didn't raise me properly, I'm grateful they brought me into this world, so I won't reject them outright. Nathan glanced at his watch and said, "Well, it's about time we left. I'm truly sorry for this occasion," and they left. After seeing them off, I went for a walk outside, reflecting on my past and present relationships and my own life. I was a dirty, impoverished child with neither money nor wisdom. Honestly, what Emily said wasn't wrong. I was unloved by my parents, disliked by classmates, and shunned by adults, living a life of solitude. Even though I was crawling at the bottom of society, I learned that there were people willing to reach out to me. Looking back, perhaps I was too consumed by the hatred for my parents, classmates, teachers, and the adults around me that I didn't even consider seeking help. I might have been too cornered then, but if I had been unable to trust anyone and just hardened up, I might have ended up missing, just like my parents. Though my time with my late wife was short, her kindness and sincerity touched me, and having a son like Alex, who trusts me completely, allowed me to regain my humanity. Come to think of it, I've spent more time with Alex than with my wife. Meeting wonderful people like Joseph and Thomas, who gave love without expecting anything in return, was a priceless lucky card in my life. What I thought was a life of despair turned out to be filled with irreplaceable treasures. Looking up at the sky, I saw a rainbow, perhaps because it had just stopped raining. I remembered my wife, whose memory was slightly fading over time, and expressed my gratitude. Thank you. Now, it's time to head back home. As I approached the house, I could hear Alex and Thomas's laughter from inside, enjoying a game together. Listening to their laughter, I slowly closed the door behind me. Everything seemed to be going smoothly with both my job and family life, so how did it come to this? John, I'll get straight to the point. Can you quit the company? What? To be clear, you're an eyesore. If you won't quit, I can ask my dad to scrap this project. Are you okay with that? That's absurd. I was being threatened with resignation by the son of a client's president, who had been hired through nepotism at our company. After much thought, I decided it was not wise to resist. A major company project was at stake. Despite feeling frustrated and ashamed, I succumbed to his threats and decided to quit the company. When I revealed to my wife, Emily, that I was quitting my job, "Well then, that's good. Thank you for quitting your job." Surprised by Emily's unexpected words, I tilted my head in confusion. My name is John. I'm a 26-year-old construction worker. My father is a well-known architect who handles everything from state offices and commercial buildings to custom homes, and my mother works as an interior coordinator, partnering in my father's architectural firm. Growing up in a family of architects, I was captivated by the allure of architecture from an early age. Even when taken to museums, I was more interested in the structure and architectural styles of the buildings than the exhibits themselves. I loved looking at my parents' work and flipping through the vast collection of architectural materials and photos at their workplace. I dreamed of someday doing this kind of work myself. I went to a high school with an architectural program and used the money I earned from part-time jobs to visit newly opened cafes and commercial facilities, conducting my own field work to understand the architectural styles and materials used. After graduating from high school, eager to get involved in architecture as soon as possible, I decided against attending university, as my parents had suggested, and instead joined a major construction company in my hometown. Since joining the company at 18, I've spent 6 years working tirelessly on-site every day. Through my work, I've steadily accumulated practical knowledge and experience necessary for architecture, such as construction work, Reading blueprints and using equipment, I'm satisfied with my career. While working, I've never stopped studying architecture. I want to one day create buildings that I've designed myself. That's the dream I've been tirelessly pursuing. I may be a dull man who sweats through physical labor every day and spends his evenings buried in studies, but I have the love and support of my dear wife. I fell in love at first sight with her 3 years ago when she was working for one of our clients. After a relentless pursuit, we started dating and were happily married last year. Now, she wakes up early every morning to make lunch for me, who works on site. She's an excellent cook, practically a professional. My colleagues are envious of my beautiful Emily's lunchboxes, and I eat lunch with great pride. Sometimes, I forget my precious lunchbox, and a few times a month, she brings it to the site for me. It's not that I want to brag about my adorable wife, not at all. Then, on a day when both my home and work life were going smoothly, at Lumina Construction, where I work, the son of President Thompson from our major client, a general contractor, was set to join the company. He is a 25-year-old named Michael, who graduated from a university's architecture program and passed the first-class architect exam. He was hired after President Thompson requested us to provide him with the practical experience needed for his license registration. We all welcomed the young first-class architect with open arms, but it turned out he was an unbearable individual who flaunted his status as the son of a client's president and behaved arrogantly. Despite this, my colleagues tried to be considerate, engaging him in conversation and teaching him about our work. But Michael's attitude worsened day by day, making increasingly disruptive comments. Michael, about the meaning for the upcoming site. The site? I'm a first-class architect, you know. Why do I have to do site work? Why? Because you need practical experience, right? You need to work on construction facilities and actually work on site. It's fine. After all, I've passed the exam. Besides, if you keep nagging me, I'll tell my dad and have you fired. Don't talk to me so casually. But President Brighton has instructed us to. Annoying. I'm really going to tell on you. That's not fair. Just handle the site work among yourselves. I'm busy with design work, so I'm leaving now. In this manner, Michael utterly detested on-site work, looking down on colleagues, senior employees, and even supervisors. Moreover, as the son of the president of a major general contractor client, everyone treated him like a delicate matter, unable to say what they really wanted, creating a tense atmosphere in the company. Amidst this tension, a construction project group for a significant enterprise was launched within the company. The task was a significant project, the construction of a large corporation's headquarters building. This involved demolishing an old building in front of the station and constructing a new mixed-use building directly connected to the station, which includes offices and commercial facilities. I was also chosen to be part of the group and was highly motivated. The group was set to proceed with the work with 10 members. Michael was among them. From the beginning, Michael was enthusiastic about this glamorous big project, asserting right off the bat that he would take the lead in the design. I'll be the design leader, so please divide up the detailed structural calculations and other miscellaneous tasks among yourselves. I'll handle the architectural design, so no input is needed, thank you. Are you going to do it alone? It's a big project, are you sure you can handle it? Of course, after all, I am a first-class architect. I have plenty of ideas stocked up from my university days, so it'll be a breeze. Really? Enough, will you? Do you think it's okay to say that to me? I'm just worried. That's none of your concern. Initially, Michael was full of confidence, working on the building's design, but the situation gradually became more ominous. This was because every design Michael submitted to the client was consistently rejected. It seemed the client's desired concept and Michael's designs were completely misaligned, leading to the client's patience running thin. It was even mentioned that if Michael's next presentation didn't succeed, they would consider hiring another construction company. Feeling cornered, Michael spent all day at his desk and computer, seemingly stuck and unable to make progress. However, since he had so boldly claimed he would handle it alone, others hesitated to offer help. As the presentation day loomed and Michael sat at his desk with a sense of desperation, I decided to offer some advice. Michael, about the concept the client wants. What? Do you have a good idea? Contrary to my expectations of resistance, he seemed open to my suggestions. He must have been feeling desperate. Well, what about incorporating nature into the office space, like creating meeting areas with wooden partitions and lattices, planting trees in between, or designing the staircase in a spiral to add a sense of space? That makes sense. Since they didn't like the office design from before, maybe boldly using wood to make people wonder if it's really an office might work. I've drawn up some plans like this. Can I see them? This looks good. Really? For the entrance? Michael listened intently, looking over the design plans I showed him. He then pleaded for the date of the design, and as a group member, I gladly agreed. Eventually, the presentation, based almost entirely on my design, was highly praised by the client. I was relieved that Lumina Construction secured this major project. Moreover, I was particularly proud that my design was adopted. That's an excellent design, Michael. The previous proposals were disappointing, but this time you've perfectly reflected our wishes. Thank you. I rethought everything from scratch, sparing no time for sleep. Inspiration struck me in a moment of extreme pressure. Wait, isn't this the design I created? Right. Keep up the good work. Incredibly, Michael took all the credit for the project's success in front of the client. After the client left, I confronted Michael. Michael, this is too much. How can you monopolize the success like this? What's wrong with that? I presented it under my name. But in the end, it was my design that was used, right? Well, what are you talking about? If you keep overstepping your bounds, I might just ask my dad to get you fired from this company, you know. Are you okay with that? You can't do that. What are you saying? Do you have any idea how much stock my dad holds in this small construction company? The personnel and management of this company are all under my dad's control. That's absurd. Don't believe it. Think I can't do it. Want to see for yourself. Michael sneered, belittling me. I bit my lower lip in frustration but endured it, not wanting to be removed from this job. After that, the project proceeded smoothly, and we entered a critical phase in the design work. One evening, as I was working late, Michael unusually approached me for a conversation. Ever since the incident where he took credit for my work, Michael and I hadn't spoken at all, and even if he apologized now, I had no intention of forgiving him. John, can I talk to you for a sec? What is it? Don't be so standoffish. After stealing my work, you have the nerve to act like this. Wow, you really hold a grudge. Anyway, that's not important. To cut to the chase, can you quit the company? What? Are you hard of hearing? I said, quit the company. If you don't, I might just ask my dad to scrap this project, you know. If the project gets scrapped, you'd be in trouble, right? Idiot. I'm the son of president. I'm just here for training and to build my resume. If this big project gets scrapped, it's the people of this company who will suffer, not me. If you quit, everyone else won't have to be left in the lurch. What will you do? That's despicable. What do you gain from doing this? You're an eyesore. A lowly high school graduate doing site work, acting all high and mighty towards me. A university graduate and first-class architect. It was so annoying. I just want you gone from my sight." "That's ridiculous." "Then, please submit your resignation tomorrow." However, I was dumbfounded by the unexpected turn of the conversation. Michael might have noticed my anger towards him and feared that it would somehow come out that he stole the project's success. Dealing with Michael started to feel absurd. If I stay here, Michael might throw a tantrum and actually scrap the project. That would be too regrettable. I managed to design the building I aimed for, even though it didn't end up being credited to me. I absolutely want to see it completed. Besides, I can achieve my dreams even if it's not with this company. After a night of agonizing, I decided to quit the company. Worried that my resolve might waver, I decided to discuss it with Emily after submitting my resignation. The next day, my boss was surprised and concerned when I submitted my resignation, but after explaining the situation, he understood and supported my decision. I also said my farewells to the project group members. Among them, a good senior colleague named Derek said, "Thank you for quitting," and patted my shoulder in a comforting manner. Surprised by his words, I looked at Derek's face, which seemed serious despite his smile, but I couldn't bring myself to ask again and just thanked him before parting ways. After organizing my things at the company, I went home and told Emily about my resignation. "Actually, I quit my job today. I made the decision without telling you, and I'm really sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" "Huh? Actually, it was the right decision. Thank you for quitting." Following Derek, even Emily thanked me for quitting my job, leaving me completely bewildered. Emily then smiled warmly and shared something with me. A few days later, I received a direct call from the client of the building construction on my cell phone, leading to an unexpected summons back to the company I had resigned from. Rushing to the company and being led to the designated meeting room, I found Michael sweating profusely and looking down, a distinguished middle-aged man in a fine suit, and the familiar building construction client's representative. "John, we've been waiting for you." "What's going on?" "I'm terribly sorry, but I've resigned." "We've heard everything. Absolutely unacceptable. Actually, we've been having trouble getting clear answers from Michael here regarding the building's design." "I see." To top it off, he submitted proposals that completely ignored the concept we had approved, creating utter chaos. When pressed, it turned out that you were the one who had created that brilliant design. "We've called you here because we desperately want to see that building completed based on your design. We need your expertise, John." I glanced at Michael, who had turned pale and shrunk in size behind the client. His previously arrogant demeanor had completely changed, and he now looked like he was on the verge of tears, sitting on the floor. "John, I'm truly sorry. It's too late for that now. Please, don't say that. Help me." "What? You were the one acting all high and mighty because you're a president's son, saying your job was safe even if the project failed. Why are you saying this now?" "Well, that's because." "You fool. How dare you say such things? I've reached my limit this time. You talked about scrapping the project. Do you have any idea how important Lumina Construction is as a client to my company? This project is actually being carried out by us." "Eek. I just thought we were a mere subcontractor." "Subcontractor or not, every business partner is valuable in completing the same work. Do you have any idea how ashamed I felt hearing about all the trouble you've caused at Lumina Construction, where I pleaded for you to be trained?" "I'm sorry. Please forgive me, Dad." "This time, I won't forgive you. We are done." Michael tearfully apologized and clung to his father following the disownment declaration. Unbeknownst to many, Emily worked for the construction company managed by Michael's father. She served as the executive secretary, essentially supporting Michael's father's company. Moreover, they shared a close relationship, more akin to a father and daughter than a boss and secretary, often sharing homemade lunches. Emily had been contemplating whether to inform her boss about Michael's arrogant behavior, credit theft, condescension, and neglect of site work based on the stories I shared. However, my resignation prompted her to reveal everything to Michael's father. He was furious to learn that his cherished secretary's husband, me, had resigned due to the son's tyranny. He had sent his son to a construction company client for on-the-job training, but upon hearing of his misdeeds from his secretary, Emily, he rushed to Lumina Construction for an inquiry. Around the same time, Derek, a senior colleague, had submitted a petition to President Brighton about Michael's tyranny. It appears that Mr. Brighton then shared this with Michael's father for consultation. I later learned that Derek had written a compelling document expressing concern about the loss of a promising junior, me, and requested my resignation be reconsidered. Knowing the true intent behind their thank you made me laugh. Subsequently, I was called back to the company I had left and rehired not as a construction worker but as an architect. Michael was abandoned by the client, the company, and his father, and ended up being fired. He cried and wailed to the end, but no one extended a helping hand. His misdeeds became well known throughout the industry, making employment difficult, and he was left wandering. Meanwhile, I successfully completed the significant building construction project. Years later, with accumulated experience, I advanced from a second-class architect to a first-class architect, receiving recognition for my work on commercial facilities, buildings, and custom homes, fulfilling my dreams and living a content life. And soon, our family will grow by one. I plan to design a happy home for our family.
My first transfer. I was assigned to my hometown. Surprisingly, my new boss was an old childhood friend. My heart leaped at this reunion after so many years. Her smile was just as I remembered from those days. Seeing that smile even brought back my feelings of first love. But I knew the feelings she hid behind that smile. I'm Scott, 30 years old. After graduating from college, I was hired as a salesperson at a regular company. I managed to do fairly well in sales, and after 8 years, I received my first transfer order. When I heard where I was being transferred, I couldn't help but exclaim. It was a transfer to a branch near my hometown. I left home to go to college and started living alone in the next state over. I had never thought that I'd return home due to a transfer. The night the orders were issued, I immediately called my parents. They sounded happy to hear I was coming back. But they said, "There's no room for you, you know?" I was already aware of that. My parents had demolished our old, dilapidated house a few years ago and moved into an apartment for two. My much older brother had already settled down and built a house in our hometown at that time. When I told my parents that I planned to move into a bachelor apartment near the company, they laughed and said, "Bachelor, huh? It would have been great if you could bring a girlfriend home," they teased me. As usual, I replied, "I'm too busy with work to have time for a relationship," and hung up the phone. Seeing my brother leading a happy married life, I knew they wanted the same happiness for me. And then came my first day of transfer. There's no place like hometown. Just being in the place where I was born and raised, the air felt nostalgically fresh. It was my first time at the transferred company's office, and I looked around curiously as I walked through the building. As I wandered around the sales department floor, someone called out, "Are you Scott?" It was the sales department head, Tucker. I greeted Tucker there and we went into the sales department together. Tucker introduced me and turned to the manager, Mark, and the section chief, Ryan. And as he was introducing, "She is the supervisor," I was taken aback. "Jules." Even though Tucker was still talking, I accidentally exclaimed out loud. "Ah, sorry." I hastily covered my mouth. No wonder I was surprised. The sales department supervisor introduced was Julie, who was my childhood friend Jules. "It's been a while. I'm looking forward to working with you," Jules said with a smile, just as I remembered from long ago. Jules was 3 years older than me and had lived next door until I was in the first year of high school. She moved out to live on her own when she went to college. Since then, we only saw each other occasionally during summer vacations and Christmas. Now, neither of our homes were next to each other anymore. When I went off to college, our family home had to be demolished, and we moved out. The last time I saw Jules was right before we moved out when she had come home for a visit. It was truly a long-awaited reunion, but I recognized her at first glance. Filled with nostalgia and joy. I almost forgot I was at the company. Tucker's voice asking, "Do you know each other?" brought me back to reality. Still exhilarated, I briefly explained to Tucker that Jules was my childhood friend. Tucker was also surprised by such a coincidence. "Just make sure you don't get too casual. But I guess Julie will handle it fine." "I'm counting on you," he said. Tucker left me in Jules's care and then departed. I immediately got started on my work. For a while, Julie, would be working with me. First, she showed me around my desk area, the department, and we toured the different floors of the company. And in between moving around, we made some small talk. Jules laughed, remembering the moment we had first seen each other earlier. Jules had calmly greeted me with, "It's been a while," but internally, she was surprised. "I thought there might be someone with the same name, but I never imagined it would actually be you, Scott," she said. I need to be careful not to accidentally call her Jules. Even though we hadn't seen each other for a long time, I've been calling her Jules since before I could even remember. It's such a natural nickname that it just comes out. "Hey, how are your parents? Are they still living in the old house?" As I traced back through my childhood memories, the faces of Jules's parents suddenly came to mind. "Yeah," Jules replied, but her expression clouded over. "But my mom isn't around anymore. Now, it's just my dad living in that house," she said. I was shocked to hear that her mother had passed away. Because her mother, I remembered, was always so lively and full of energy. But I was somewhat relieved to hear that her father was doing well. Even though Jules and I are childhood friends, at the company, it's a supervisor-subordinate relationship. As a supervisor, Jules efficiently handles her work, and the term career woman suits her well. Yet, her caring demeanor and her bright smile when interacting with people haven't changed since those days. Though she seems even more radiant now than before. While I do respect her as a supervisor, I must admit, I feel a bit giddy because, honestly, Jules was my first love. Jules was adorable ever since she was a child. With a small face and big eyes, she was always smiling. Her smile, kind nature, and caring, sisterly demeanor made her popular with everyone, regardless of gender. That hasn't changed even now as an adult. It makes sense that she's in a leadership position. The only thing that has changed is that she has grown even more beautiful as an adult. The forgotten feelings of my first love were slightly tickled. It's rare not to be asked questions about whether was Julie always as beautiful by a colleague who learned she was my childhood friend. It seems Jules is quite popular among the male employees. I've even heard from long-term employees she's been popular since she joined the company. But apparently, winning Jules over has proven to be a tough challenge. She's so cute but seems to have no interest in men. Someone sighed after being turned down for a date on a weekend. Well, I'll keep this conversation a secret from Jules. I hadn't thought there were any bad rumors, but knowing she's well liked by everyone put me at ease. Then on one Monday, during the morning assembly, I noticed Jules was absent. When I checked with Tucker, he mentioned that she had called in just before work hours to say she was taking the day off due to severe dizziness. Worried, I sent her a message asking, "Are you okay?" Though she didn't reply immediately, she eventually responded with, "Yes, thank you." Still concerned, I called Jules after work. "Hello?" I heard Jules's faint voice on the other end. When I asked, "How are you feeling?" she said she felt too ill to get up. Jules's apartment was near the company, just like mine. I knew it was within walking distance. I told her I'd bring some drinks and easy-to-eat snacks and asked for her apartment number before heading over immediately. When I arrived at the apartment and rang the intercom, there was no response, even after several attempts. Considering she had mentioned she couldn't get up, I thought she might be asleep. And was about to leave the items at the doorstep when a bad feeling stopped me. I tentatively tried the doorknob and found it unlocked. That's when I opened the door. "Jules!" I called out to her in a panic. She was leaning against the wall near the entrance, looking pale and in pain. After my call, she had managed to get to the door and unlock it. She said the dizziness started the night before. Suddenly, she had been struck by severe vertigo and collapsed. She thought it had subsided a bit, but she was still feeling dizzy. I tried to help Jules to her bed, but her complexion was so poor, and she was so weak that she could hardly walk. I immediately called an ambulance. I accompanied her to the hospital. After an examination, she was suspected of having Meniere's disease. Given her poor condition, Jules was admitted to the hospital for further tests. When it came time to fill out the hospital admission forms, they asked me to contact her family. But Jules said, I didn't want to worry my father, and asked me not to tell him. From her expression, I sensed there was a reason behind it, and when I asked, it seemed she also wanted to spare Uncle the trouble of coming to the hospital because he was currently having trouble with his legs. Thinking it would cause less worry if he heard from me rather than getting a call from the hospital, I contacted him myself. He was shaken to hear she was admitted, but was relieved when I told him I was with her. He seemed to already know that I had transferred to the same company as Jules and asked me please take care of various things, including work matters. Considering his physical condition, I told him I would do as much as I could and gave him my phone number to ensure he could contact me anytime. The next day, after work, I visited Jules, and her complexion looked better than the day before. She still didn't have the strength to sit up, but she felt a bit more settled. I wonder if Dad is okay. Despite her own discomfort, Jules was constantly worried about her father, wondering if he had eaten or how he was managing his laundry. Since I had heard about her father's bad leg the day before, and she was so worried about him, I asked, is he really in such a tough spot? Quietly, Jules said, yeah. And continued, I didn't want to worry him too much. As she explained the situation, her mother had passed away 4 years ago due to cancer. By the time it was discovered, it had already metastasized throughout her body, and rather than aggressive treatment, she chose palliative care. At the time, Jules had been appointed as a project leader and was on a long business trip out of state. When she learned of her illness, Jules had considered consulting with her company to return home. However, both of her parents opposed this. Because Jules had just been given her first opportunity to lead a project. Your dream is also my dream, her mother had insisted strongly, so Jules decided against returning home. Towards the end, her father took a 2-month leave from work to care for her. Even so, Jules was able to be there at the end. She ended up taking about a week off, but the project leader role remained hers, and her supervisor covered for her during her absence. About a month later, the project ended. And Jules returned from her business trip, but then misfortune struck her father. He was working on site when he slipped and fell from a height, resulting in lasting damage to his leg. After losing his wife, he had been suffering from sleepless nights filled with deep sadness. With the fatigue from caring for his wife compounded by sleep deprivation, his attention wandered, leading to the accident. Jules blamed herself for pushing him too hard. This prompted Jules to help with household chores by visiting her father's home after work and on weekends. At one point, she even considered giving up living alone and moving back home. But her father, considering Jules's commute, opposed the idea. Ultimately, Jules continued to commute to her parents' home for these past 4 years. She was promoted to supervisor and took on new responsibilities as a project leader. Despite being busy and tired from work, Jules always put her father's needs before her own. Taking on her job, the household chores, and her father's care alone must have been incredibly hard. Continuing in this state to the point of exhaustion, it seems the stress led to her bouts of dizziness. I never would have guessed from Jules's usually bright smile that she was dealing with so much. I felt ashamed that, despite being childhood friends, I didn't really understand her struggles. At the same time, I realized I couldn't just leave things as they were. I needed to do something for both Jules and her father. I thought I needed to see her father as soon as possible. After leaving Jules's hospital room, I called him and arranged to visit him the next day. The following day, after work, I headed to his house. I had told him we'd have dinner together, so I asked in advance about his favorite dishes and picked up some takeout from a local deli. As soon as he saw me, he greeted me with a broad smile and said, "You've grown up so much." It had been decades since we last met face to face, and although I felt nostalgic entering the house where I used to play almost every day, it felt almost like coming home. While we nibbled on the foods, we chatted about various things. But the conversation soon turned to Jules. I wonder if I pushed her too hard. He was blaming himself, too. He talked about how Jules had always been a kind and hardworking child and that hadn't changed, especially after her mother's death. She had been even more concerned about him. despite knowing he shouldn't rely too much on her kindness. He admitted that he might have been leaning on her a bit too much since he was happy about her visits. He hadn't expected to feel so weakened by his wife's passing and felt pathetic for it, he said with a slump in his shoulders. He's a very kind-hearted man. As a child, when my parents were busy, he would play games with us or take Jules and me on day trips. While it might sound overstated to say I wanted to repay a kindness, I did want to help him feel better, even just a little. As I was thinking about how to brighten the conversation, I remembered that we used to play chess together. Didn't you like playing chess? I asked. His eyes lit up as he responded, "Oh. How about a game for old time's sake?" We then set up a game of chess. Although he mentioned it had been a while, he was still quite skilled, and I struggled to keep up. I lost quite easily. During the game, we talked about hobbies. And when he learned that my current hobby was fishing, he reminisced, "I used to fish a lot before I had a family," and mentioned wanting to try it again. Since his injury, he hadn't been out much. Maybe going fishing could lift his spirits a bit. "Let's go together once Jules is out of the hospital and feeling better," I suggested, making plans to go fishing with him. Jules's diagnostic stay in the hospital lasted a week. Thankfully, no diseases other than Meniere's disease were found. And she was advised not to overdo it upon discharge. Jules, more concerned about her father than herself, visited her home immediately after being discharged. Knowing she was going to visit, I offered to drive her and take the opportunity to see her father too. As soon as Jules and her father saw each other, they said "I'm sorry," truly showing how much they cared for each other. "I brought this for you." Hoping to change the atmosphere a bit, I spoke up. "Oh. Thank you, is it all right to bring 3 books?" Jules leaned in to take a closer look at the books. "Huh? A special feature on sea fishing? Books about fishing? We're planning to go fishing sometime, Scott and I," he responded. Hearing this, Jules exclaimed in surprise, "When did you two get so close?" In fact, besides the day we had reunited after a long time, I had visited him 2 more times. Jules knew I had been dropping off food for him, but she had no idea we had become close enough to make plans to hang out together. "Can we match up again today?" "I hate to keep losing," I joked. "Sure, but I won't go easy on you," he replied with a chuckle. "No, please go easy on me." I laughed. He seemed quietly pleased as he pulled out the chessboard. "He looks happy." He finally smiled. Jules muttered under her breath, almost to herself. I glanced over at Jules and saw her smiling through tears. From then on, I made up excuses about wanting to play chess or talk about fishing to visit her father. It wasn't that I felt obligated. I genuinely enjoyed having a hobby partner. When we met on weekends, I would invite his father to go shopping with me, helping him buy household necessities and stock up on groceries for several days. No matter where we went, we always ended up talking about our hobbies, and it was simply a lot of fun. "Hey, it seems like you two are going out together every week, doesn't it?" Jules asked with a smile during a lunch break at work. "Look at this." Jules showed me the messages she exchanged with her father and teased, "You guys went out last week and the week before that too, didn't you? We just click, we have a great time." I explained, and Jules chuckled softly. "Hey Scott, thank you. What's this all of a sudden?" I felt a bit embarrassed. Well, just being next to Jules made my heart race anyway. Though she was my first love, the feelings I held as a child were clearly different now. Beyond simply liking her, I naturally developed a desire to make her happy. I wanted to protect Jules's smile. "What's this? Both of you coming together is quite rare." One Sunday when Jules and I went to visit him. We have something to tell you. I've started dating Julie, and I wanted to ask for your permission." As I solemnly began to speak, both Jules and her father suddenly burst into laughter with a chuckle in the middle of my speech. Apparently, as they heard me formally address her as Julie, it hit a funny nerve, and they both burst into laughter. "There's no need for permission, Scott. I'd be happy. You're like a friend or even a son to me already," he said, making me feel relieved. I had approached Jules with the intention of marriage in mind. When she said yes, I was overjoyed. It turns out Jules had always seen me as something like a younger brother. But one day, seeing me having a great time talking with her father, she suddenly thought, I might marry this man. A few days later, I confessed my feelings to her. Life is full of surprises, Jules said with a laugh. 5 years later. Now, I no longer call her by Jules, but simply as Julie. And her father is now my father-in-law. And now we're living happily and noisily as a family of 5, with our 2-year-old son and our newborn daughter. A year after my confession, we got married. With the marriage, we decided to live together in Julie's family home. This cohabitation was actually encouraged by my own family as well. When I was seriously considering marriage, I realized my own dependence. The idea of becoming a son-in-law and living with my wife's family seemed natural because my much older brother had always taken care of our parents and had told me from a young age that he would handle everything. When I decided to become a family with Julie and my father-in-law, I felt not only joy but also a sense of responsibility. It was a commitment I decided I would uphold. I realized then that my brother had been carrying this responsibility all along. In the house my brother built, there are rooms prepared for our parents, anticipating that they might live there someday. I ask you to take good care of them, I said in front of my parents and brother. Leave them to me. My brother replied, tapping me on the shoulder. Scott has really grown up. Take good care of Julie and your father-in-law. Cherish them. My family responded. It was with their support that I was able to commit to making Julie and my father-in-law happy. I'll never forget this feeling. I will always protect the laughter of our children, and the smiles of Julie and my father-in-law. I'm surprised you could make it to the reunion after dropping out the college halfway through, she said. I'm living with my boyfriend on the 20th floor of the high-rise apartment, she mentioned. Well then. As I started to walk away, she suddenly exclaimed, Hey! Where are you going? My house is this way. Pointing to a building in the opposite direction. No, I'm going home. My apartment is on the top floor here, I replied. My name is Tucker Tate. Currently, I run my own business. Honestly, I never thought I would be able to manage a business. Ever since I was young, I dreamed of owning my own company. But I thought it was impossible. This belief stemmed from my father's expectations. My father was a hospital director. So, he had always told me since I was young that he had wanted me to take over his hospital. Honestly, I never wanted to become a doctor. When I was small, I enjoyed studying because it made my parents happy. However, as I grew up and went through middle and high school, I began to question it. Did I really want to be a doctor? No, that's not it. I didn't want to take over my father's business, nor did I want to become a doctor. But my father was not easily persuaded, and he insisted that I had to go to a medical school. When I really felt it wasn't right for me in the school, I was told I could pursue my own interests. Reluctantly, I enrolled in a medical school. But eventually, I dropped out, and that has led me to where I am today. And why I suddenly started talking about this was because I never thought you'd show up at the reunion, she remarked. Despite dropping out halfway through, it's great to see you at the reunion, she said. The woman spoke to me was Maya. She was my girlfriend during college. It's been a while, Maya. During college, I was dating her. When I discussed dropping out because I couldn't keep up with the studies, she dismissed me saying, just because you can't keep up, you're quitting? Honestly, our university is quite challenging. Are you just running away? She never really listened to my concerns. After discussing my desire to leave, she told me she had found someone else and broke up with me. Breaking up made it easier for me to leave college for good. It's nice to see everyone after so long. How have you all been? Where are you working now? She was amicable to ask like that to everyone, except me. Maya was always like that during college as well. She was very friendly with teachers and classmates. But it was different whenever she spoke to me. She always spoke in a condescending tone to me. I thought maybe she had changed when I saw her at the reunion, but she hadn't really. What have you been doing? Tell me. What did you do after quitting medical school? I found what I really wanted to do and started my own company. It took quite some time, but it's very fulfilling. As I spoke, she smirked as if I had said something amusing. I was waiting for her next remark, thinking that I hadn't intended to make an interesting remark. And then? What do you mean and then? I asked her back. I had just answered her initial question, but I was puzzled by what she wanted more. What did she mean by and then? And just how much are you making now? My thought froze for a moment since I didn't expect to be asked about my earnings. You probably have just one employee, right? That's called a sole proprietorship, you know. You don't say you've launched a company. With freelancing in all these days, are you calling that a startup? You're really out of touch, she remarked, seemingly unable to believe I had started a business. Or was she believing me? But she was just assuming it was a small venture. It's not just me. I have a substantial number of employees and a stable annual income. Of course, I can't discuss my salary here. So, how many employees do you have? More than 100? Of course. It's not just 100, it's over 1,000, I responded. I answered that and Maya bursted out laughing with delight. Her laugh hadn't changed since our student days. Before we dated, she looked so charming, that changed once we became a couple. It turned out Maya always looked down on me. Even while we were together, she would talk down about me to our friends of our club in college, claiming she was doing me a favor by dating me. If you're going to lie, at least be more skillful about it. Lies that obvious only embarrass you, you know? I'm not lying. I even have a business card. Do you want one? Oh, stop it. Don't try to give me your contact information. Maya glared at me with utter disdain. I had only mentioned handing her a business card, not exchanging contact information. Did she equate giving out a business card with exchanging contact details? It's not like that at all. I just want you to believe me. Come on. Anyone can make a business card these days. Don't think you can fool me with that, she dismissed. She seemed determined not to acknowledge my entrepreneurial success. That was understandable, since she had always considered me beneath her, especially after I dropped out of college. She couldn't easily accept that someone she regarded as inferior now managed a company with over 1,000 employees. I had struggled to reach this point. I had discussed it countless times with my family and faced many challenges. But I am here today through encounters with a lot of people. So it was frustrating to be dismissed with the simple words like, "That's impossible." If you doubt me that much, check out my website. You'll see my name as the CEO. I'm sorry, but I don't have time to waste on you, she retorted. Who started this argument in the first place? I wanted to argue back. I don't have time to indulge your lies or any intention of believing them. Just dreaming is fine, but we're adults now, so get your act together, she said as she walked away to join other classmates. Maya was dressed in branded attire, suggesting she led a comfortable life. It was disappointing to hear such things at the reunion I had looked forward to. Nevertheless, I enjoyed catching up with other friends. Reminiscing about who had gotten married and who had children made me feel as if we were back in our student days. As the reunion reached its midpoint, Maya approached me again. Maya, will you listen to my boyfriend's story? He's really cool. She started on her own. My boyfriend works for a major company and he seems so busy. His boss is a great guy and he wants to contribute to the company. I love that he's dedicated to his company, but I wish he wouldn't make me feel so lonely, she shared. Is that so? Tucker, you probably don't have to worry about being too busy with work, she said with a sideways glance and a sneer. Why did she always seem to have it out for me? I'm currently working at a hospital, she continued. She had graduated from the medical school and was working at a fairly large hospital. Look at this. My boyfriend gave me this necklace. Isn't it cute? Guess how much it cost? Maya's necklace was petite and very cute, suggesting that the person who chose it had excellent taste. Considering the market price of this brand, it's probably around $3,000, right? When I guessed the price, Maya looked at me with surprise. Did I say something odd? However, she quickly laughed. Correct. But are you really spending your lonely nights researching brands you can't afford? What do you mean by that? You are pitiful with no money and no girlfriend. You might as well not go to the store at all. Just looking without buying is called window shopping, she taunted. I can afford it. And I do have a girlfriend, I retorted. Maya looked at me as if she couldn't believe it. I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years now. She never complains about my busy schedule and is always supportive, such a kind woman. But she does scold me if I don't get enough sleep or skip meals. She's usually gentle, but she doesn't hesitate to call me out if I'm too engrossed in work and not paying attention to my surroundings. You have a girlfriend? That must be a lie. Stop lying, though. I can understand you haven't been with anyone since we broke up. It was a miracle to date with a beauty like me in your life, right? Maya confidently declared. Her unyielding confidence was almost laughable. Certainly, Maya was beautiful. But living with someone is about more than just looks, character matters. My girlfriend wrapped my heart in kindness, a truly beautiful woman. It didn't bother me that Maya looked down on me, but denying the existence of my girlfriend crossed a line. Thinking this, I spoke up. Maya, you've definitely become prettier. But my girlfriend is also very beautiful and cute. There's no way someone like you could be dating such a woman. Are you talking about some woman from your dreams? Don't be rude. She's real. I even have a photo. Want to see it? I don't want to waste my time on your fantasies. Didn't I say that before? I couldn't just stay silent since I was pushed to this point. I was about to pull out my phone to show Maya a photo of my girlfriend. But then I hesitated. Was there really any need to prove her existence like this? It didn't seem right to show off her photo just to brag. I started to think so. It would be enough that I know the goodness and beauty of my girlfriend as her boyfriend. There was no need to convince Maya. With that thought, I put my phone back in my bag. Maya probably assumed she was right in her accusations after say what I did. See, I knew she didn't exist. You can't keep a lie hidden for long. If you say so, take a look at this. I pulled out my phone again and showed the lock screen to her, which had a picture of my girlfriend. There was my girlfriend beaming with a full smile. Her name is Sarah Norton. She smiled like a flower in full bloom. Maya's face froze at the moment she saw the lock screen. She's really your girlfriend? Not your sister or something? You know I don't have any siblings. She's genuinely my girlfriend, I affirmed. Maya looked at my phone screen as if it were something distasteful. I feel like I've seen her somewhere before. Maya mused skeptically. Though I doubted they knew each other. Since I feel like I've seen her before, you grabbed some random photo off the internet, right? Maybe she's an actress? I'll check it out later. Maya conjectured. As Maya tried to take a photo, I stopped her. Hey! Don't take photos without permission. You haven't asked her, right? She scoffed, got nervous, huh? Must be a lie then. It seemed she found it amusing that I refused to let her take a picture. She looked at me triumphantly. She was convinced that the photo must have been pulled from the internet. If you won't believe me, then let's just drop it, I said. I got fed up of arguing with her and looked away. Suddenly, Maya raised her voice. Hey everyone! How about we have the after party at my place? Everyone was momentarily taken aback by her proposal. Actually, I live with my boyfriend in a high-rise apartment, she added. The crowd cheered hearing this. They were thrilled since alcohol was involved. There were some reactions from around such as, sounds awesome. I want to see the high-rise. Or I'm definitely going for the after party. I'm living with my boyfriend on the 20th floor of a high-rise. This made the classmates even more excited. You must come too. You probably don't have work tomorrow, right? She told me. I'm not coming. Come on, tell us more about your girlfriend. My place is right here. She insisted that and showed me her address. The address was very close to where I lived. Rather than awkwardly refusing here, I figured I'd attend the after party and find an excuse to leave early. Maybe I'd say I was feeling unwell as soon as I got near home. I just nodded silently while I thought Maya wouldn't listen to anything I said at this point. As we headed to Maya's house, she kept bragging about her boyfriend. My boyfriend is really capable and handsome. He buys me anything I want, she boasted. What she was talking was only her boyfriend's looks and money. Didn't you like him because of his personality? I asked. That's none of your business. Besides, dating you is just for fun. She replied what I unexpected. I dated you just to make my real crush jealous. I wanted him to see and get jealous, she said. Did she think that would hurt me? It was years ago. There was nothing to fuss over at that time. Maya continued, visibly pleased with herself. Thanks to you, my crush who got jealous confessed to me. Oh, but just so you know, I'm not dating this man now. My current boyfriend was a patient at my hospital. He was so handsome and charming. I thought it would be great to date him. And after seeing how dedicated I was at nursing, he fell for me, she claimed. Okay, that's great. Honestly, I had no interest in Maya's stories. I just wanted to get back home to Sarah who was waiting for me. Home was only about 10 minutes away. I guessed I would have to play along with her stories to keep Maya satisfied. Honestly, his personality is too kind, not really my type. But he's handsome, and his salary is high, so I'm definitely not letting him go. She declared. Good for you. I hope you find happiness, I said. What's with that patronizing tone? As if you have a girlfriend, she scoffed. I told you, I have a girlfriend. I even showed you a photo. Oh, that one? Just some random internet pic, right? Talking with Maya was truly exhausting. I just wanted to get home. Every second was too long for me. If I get another invitation to a reunion, I think I'll pass. Dealing with such snide remarks isn't worth it. I'd rather have dinner with Sarah. He's really rich and lives on the 20th floor of a high-rise. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I can understand since live in a high-rise too. You are lying again. Maya seemed determined to call me a liar, no matter what I said. I'd not mind what she wanted to do. Ever since I mentioned I have a boyfriend, you suddenly say you have a girlfriend, and when I say my boyfriend is rich, you claim you run a company. And after hearing I'm living in a high-rise, suddenly you said you're doing that too. I'm not trying to copy you, I'm just stating facts. If they sound like lies to you, there's nothing more I can say. Indeed, our stories did have a lot in common. I was not imitating her, but... You still have feelings for me, don't you? What? That's right. You're just trying to impress me because you're still hung up on me, right? That is troublesome. No, that's a misunderstanding. Before I could finish, Maya raised her voice again. Everyone, we've arrived. Mine is on the 20th floor of this building. I thought I was finally free and said, well then. And started to walk away. But then she exclaimed, hey. Where are you going? My place is this way. Pointing in the exact opposite direction of the building I had started walking toward. No, I'm going home because my place is on the top floor here. I started walking towards the building opposite to the one Maya pointed out. The crowd around us began to murmur. That's not true, you're living in this building, is that? What's the point of lying? Such lies will be quickly exposed. That high-rise, isn't it better than mine? Maybe, but I don't know how much your rent is, Maya. Your apartment's rent is double mine. Maya yelled, and I knew this fact for the first time. And then other classmates started to chime in. This place is really famous, right? And I heard on TV it costs a lot. I've always prioritized work. So I never cared much about where I lived, just that it was close to work and reasonably spacious. It turned out the high-rise I've lived in was quite renowned. Stop lying. Go inside then. I'm going home anyway, are you coming with me? Maya nodded as if it were obvious. If you're lying, you're going to be really embarrassed. She seemed determined not to believe me until she saw me enter my home. I sighed and walked into the entrance. I greeted the security as usual. Maya's face showed disbelief when she saw this. As I was about to use my key to enter, she rushed up, saying, "Is this really your place?" "I've been telling you, it is. I'm going home now." "Wait. Explain yourself." Maya got angry while saying so. "Enough already. I've been telling the truth from the start. Besides, aren't your friends waiting for you? You are going to host the after-party at your place, right? You have to come too. My girlfriend is waiting for me at home. I need to go back to her." She heard this and it seemed like something clicked for Maya. Let's invite your girlfriend and go to the after party together. There was no way I want that. I didn't want my girlfriend to see me like this. And it was just rude to spring a party invitation on her suddenly. Especially they didn't know each other. When I was about to decline thinking that, I heard someone call Tucker from behind Maya. Sarah. I found my girlfriend Sarah standing there. Welcome back. Is she your friend? You had a reunion today, right? It seemed Sarah had just been to the nearby convenience store to buy some drinks. She held a bag with likely containing some snacks. I just wanted something sweet, got some ice cream and drinks, she said with a sweet smile. My heart felt at ease by looking at her. Suddenly, Maya approached Sarah. We're having an after party at my place now. Would you like to join? You're Tucker's girlfriend, right? Aren't you curious about his past? Maya ignored me and spoke directly to Sarah. She looked quite bewildered. Hey! Stop it. Can't you see she's uncomfortable? It would be great if you could join us for the after party, Maya said with forcing a smile. It's too sudden to invite her. Really? I'd love to go, Sarah responded with a smile. And it surprised me. There you go. I'll show you to my place, Maya said. Thank you. And the two of them started walking together. Are you sure about this, Sarah? I'd like to talk and join, if that's okay? I won't be in the way. Her willingness was unexpected, since Sarah usually didn't like such spontaneous plans. It's all right. Since she's saying so, Maya added. I couldn't understand what Maya was up to. But my questions were answered just a few minutes later. Actually, I used to date Tucker. He's not really anything special, kind of dull, you know? Why would you be with someone like him? Don't waste your time. She started saying things like that. He even claimed he dropped out of college and runs a company. It's not a lie. He really does run his own company. Really? Are you sure you're not being deceived? Be careful, there are a lot of scary, lying men out there. Ha! That's funny. I'll be careful. You really should be. It's surprising how many lying men there are around here. She was implying that I was one of those lying men. Even though she had confirmed that I do have a girlfriend and live in a high-rise, she still didn't believe I run a company. But you know, it's not just men who can be scary. Women can be too, so we all have to be careful, right? Yes, there are lots of lying women out there too. I have a brother, and I always make sure to look out for him so he doesn't get deceived, Sarah began to say and engaged in the conversation with a twist. You have a brother? Yes. Sarah is beautiful, so I bet your brother is really handsome too. What's his salary like? His salary? I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's quite high. Plus, he's handsome and has a great personality. Introduce him to me, will you? Even though she had been bragging about her boyfriend all this time, it was surprising she could say something like that. I was heading to Maya's house with a look of disbelief. The elevator continued to rise, and soon we would be at the 20th floor. I really didn't want to go, but if Sarah was enthusiastic about it, then it was a different story. Sarah was talking a lot today. She was usually quite reserved. And Maya was clearly looking down on me. I thought Sarah would snap back at her. But she's been unusually quiet. We arrived at Maya's place. Hi, I'm back. Sarah. Please keep it a secret that I asked about your brother earlier, Maya whispered to Sarah. But as soon as Sarah entered the room, I'm sorry, keeping that a secret might be difficult, Sarah said with a smile to Maya. And then, Tucker. Sawyer. Hi, Sawyer. Why are you here, Tucker? That should be my line. Sawyer, you've been living so close to my place? Maya's mouth agape in shock as our conversation unfolded. Do you know him? He's the CEO of the company I work for. He always gives me great helps. Thank you, Sawyer's sales performance is top-notch. That's not true at all. A CEO? That's a lie, right? Because my boyfriend works for a really big company. It makes $500 million a year, right? Hey, Sawyer. $500 million. That's our CEO. I've been enjoying working in your company, Tucker, Sawyer said with a mischievous grin. I had no idea that one of my employees, Sawyer, was dating Maya. And that Sawyer lived so close by. Then there was another problem. Bro, long time no see. I didn't know you moved here. I just moved here recently and hadn't told you yet. I was planning to invite you over soon. Your brother? What does that mean? A pale-faced Maya pointed at Sarah. She's my sister. And that's her boyfriend, Tucker. You're kidding. She was your sister. Were you deceiving me by knowing all along? For Maya, this situation must be overwhelmingly awful. The boyfriend she boasted about was an employee at my company. And she had been complaining about me to her boyfriend's sister. I had only seen him in photos, so I just thought he looked familiar. But when we got here and I saw my brother, I realized. That stuff I said earlier was just a joke, don't take it seriously. I didn't mean it, it was the alcohol talking. Maya desperately tried to make excuses. It seemed that the classmates somewhat understood the situation, and it led to an uncomfortable atmosphere. Maya was desperately babbling away. She probably didn't want Sawyer to hear about the earlier conversation. That's right. I was drunk. Your boyfriend really is a wonderful person. Maya suddenly said, completely reversing her attitude. What's wrong with you? You look pale. Weren't you looking down on my boyfriend? Saying that someone who dropped out of college couldn't possibly work properly. My boyfriend is working hard managing his company. Sarah said, and her face showed anger instead of smiles. It was just a little joke, right? Right, Tucker? We're good friends, aren't we? Maya tried to make eye contact, pleading with her eyes to go along with her. I've been putting up with it because you're Tuck's classmate. But it's different if you're my brother's girlfriend. Sarah's firm voice echoes through the room. What? Sawyer. This person only looks at your appearance and money. She even asked me to introduce her to a handsome man. And also said that Tuck couldn't work properly because he dropped out of college, Sarah added. Maya's earlier bravado was gone, and she began to tremble. What do you mean? Sawyer's voice sounded angry. I spoke up so that the atmosphere couldn't get any worse. Let's calm down for now. Remember, everyone else is here too. Sorry. Tuck. You're right. Sarah said, looking down apologetically as I gently patted her head. I'm sorry for being rude. I had no idea you worked for such a major company. The way you say it sounds like it would be okay to look down on someone if they didn't work for a major company, he noted. That's not what I meant. Sarah and Sawyer's eyes were filled with anger. In fact, I was the one who headhunted Sawyer. At his previous company, he wasn't advancing as expected. But the reason for his lack of progress was clear. His boss was taking all the credit for his work. Realizing this, I headhunted Sawyer and brought him into my company. That was why Sawyer regarded me almost like an older brother, truly bonding with me. And it was Sawyer who introduced me to his sister, Sarah. Sarah's eyes were sparkling with excitement at the first time we met. I've heard all about you from my brother, she had said, her liking for me evident from the start. Energetic and somewhat reckless, the more time I spent with Sarah, the more I was drawn to her, and it made me confess my feelings. That was why Sawyer and Sarah are very close to me. I'm sorry. I had no idea you were the CEO of the company. I said so many disrespectful things, that. I don't mind. It's true I dropped out of college, I reassured her. That's kind of you. You've always been so kind. Maya seemingly relieved by my support. Maya looked at me with a relieved and happy expression. I don't really mind, but you're not suitable for my precious friend, I finally said. What? Throughout the reunion, you've been boasting about your boyfriend, focusing solely on his wealth and appearance. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to sincerely congratulate you two if you got married. I can't see myself getting along with you. Why would you say something like that? Let's discuss this later. Everyone, sorry for the odd vibe. Sawyer quickly shifted into work mode and began entertaining the other reunion members. Initially, the atmosphere was indescribable, but as the alcohol flowed, the room soon livened up. Except for one person. Maya apologized numerous times afterwards, but apologies alone couldn't change what had happened. Try to talk it out. We're heading home now. Let's go, Tuck. Sarah said with a joyful smile, gripping my hand and leading me towards the entrance. I heard a sound like something collapsing behind us, but I didn't look back. Since then, I've heard that Maya broke up with her boyfriend and was kicked out of the high-rise. Afterwards, she blocked all her classmates' contacts and no one could reach her. With such a high pride, Maya probably couldn't bear it. I hope she finds true love somewhere. Love that isn't based on appearances or money. Maybe then, Maya might change. Tuck. I'm sorry for causing such a scene. Honestly, I feel relieved. Thank you. I was thinking of enduring if she was just one of your classmates, but it's different when she's my brother's girlfriend, right? Plus, she kept making disparaging remarks about you. It's always like this, you get angry before me, so I never have to. I'll always get angry for you, Tuck. I'm seeing Sarah laugh so happily. And I decided to propose to her soon.